Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Chronically Drawing In the True Off My Chest subreddit. The post is titled, "My boyfriend admitted that he orchestrated our meet. I have no idea how I feel about what he told me. I want to think it's cute that he cared this much, but it's just coming off as creepy and I feel lied to. He got drunk because we were celebrating my first successful day at my clinicals, and he ended up saying something along the lines of, 'Could you believe we wouldn't be this happy if I hadn't watched you for so long?' To which I was confused and didn't know what he meant. Well, I had worked at a local library for 2 years before we met during college, and apparently he saw me there but didn't actually talk to me. He just would watch me and listen in on my conversations with the people I was checking out and my coworkers to figure out what I liked. Then he apparently followed me and found the coffee shop I frequented. All this time, I thought we had a sweet first-time meeting story. He accidentally bumped into me, apologized, and offered to buy me coffee for the trouble. He told me what he was ordering, and it was the exact same thing I always get. I thought it was an amazing coincidence. I joked that it was fate, and we spent like an hour talking over coffee. I feel so stupid. Apparently, it was similar to a scene in a book that I had read and told my coworker I had thought was cute. I'm just so frustrated and angry. I feel betrayed. Like, why would you do this? And how much of our 1.5-year relationship is a lie? It sounds like he was stalking me. Edit. Just so we're all on the same page, I don't believe he was watching me the whole time I was working there. I think it was the last 6 months or so before I actually met him. He is a bit socially awkward, but he has a group of friends that he plays Dungeons and Dragons with and hangs out with about once a week. He's 25 and I'm 22, so it's not a weird age gap. I have never really considered him going through my phone weird because I basically let anyone look at my phone whenever. I'm not worried about anyone seeing anything. I've also never really been worried about my safety with him before, but I do know that he has anger issues and has gotten in trouble for getting into a few physical fights. So for those of you worried about me, I will be watching for any signs I might have missed. I mainly am just upset because I feel like our relationship was built on a lie, even if it was a small one. He also said he was interested in a lot of the same things I was when we first met, and for a while he kept up with them, but lately he hasn't at all, and I'm now wondering if he lied about those things too. I definitely need to have a conversation with him, and I'm driving home now, so I'll talk with him when I get there. Thanks for the feedback, folks. Update. I know a lot of you have been worried about me, and I just wanted to let all of you know that I'm safe. Things have definitely hit the fan, but at the moment I'm safe. First, no, I didn't make that last edit. My boyfriend went on my phone while I was showering and trying to figure out what I wanted to say to him about everything, and he found and edited my post. He then started yelling at me while I was still in the shower about sharing it online and calling him creepy. At the same time, he was guilt-tripping me and telling me that it was romantic and that he did it because he loved me. He literally read a few of the comments out loud to me. He barely let me out of the shower, but I did manage to get my clothes on while he was screaming at me. What really freaked me out was that he started listing off things that he could have done to me. I won't list them here because it was extremely gruesome and I don't think it's allowed, but he said that he didn't do those things because he's such a nice guy. The way he described the things he could have done made me feel like he had genuinely considered doing them. Also, I thought he was only watching me for a few months, but apparently it was upwards of a year, and it was genuine actual stalking. He had followed me home and to my college campus, and he pulled out a collection of my lost hair ties that he kept. I told him that he was scaring me and that we needed to take a break and come back to it later. At that, he put a hole in the wall next to my head. I told him that I was leaving after that because I was done with that behavior, and it was like a switch flipped. He started crying, got on his knees, begged me to stay, and apologized. I ended up accepting his apology because I didn't feel safe leaving. Yesterday morning, after he had left for work, I grabbed all my important documents and irreplaceable things before my clinical started and kept them in my car. After my clinical, I didn't go back to the apartment. I'm not going to give much more detail than that because he does know my account, obviously. And for Andrew, if you're reading this, which we both know you are, please just leave me alone. The person I thought I loved doesn't actually exist, and that's heartbreaking. I no longer feel safe with you like I did before, and I hate that. Please, let's just move on from each other. Grumpy McGrumpy Pants said, yes, this is a surefire way to reassure your girlfriend that your stalking should be totally acceptable by having a handy list of all the other crimes you had in mind but did not actually commit. To this comment, Charlotte Lucas replied, and if she says you're scaring her, bash a hole in the wall beside her head soothingly. The OV said, OP unwittingly moved in with Joe Goldberg. Yikes, glad she got out, but I am not sure this is over yet. If he stalked her once, he is going to stalk her again. Pierre Mellon said, I really want this to not have been real. To this swarm of rats said, men do this to women at work all the time. I used to have a guy who would come in and talk with me while I rang up his goods. I thought he was kind of sweet. Then I started seeing him outside of work. He would be at a distance while I was shopping or elsewhere. Then I started seeing him on my bus route to and from work. Then he approached me while I was waiting for a bus and asked if he could touch my hair. I said no, and he reached out and touched my neck like he was going to grab it. There are too many scary people out there. It's not just men or straight people or whatever. Everybody needs to be careful. This next post was made in the marriage subreddit by a user named Concerned Wife. The post is titled, My husband's first love contacted him wanting to apologize and reconnect. Should I be concerned? I am 27 years old and I have been with my husband, also 27, for almost 8 years, married for 3. Let's call him Liam. Prior to our relationship, Liam was with Danielle. Liam and Danielle met in high school and were extremely close friends before they decided to start dating. They dated from the end of their senior year of high school to the end of their freshman year of college. They were a lot of firsts for each other, including having sex for the first time. According to Liam, Danielle was the first girl he was ever truly in love with. He did anything for her, including driving over 2.5 hours to and from his college to her college every weekend during their freshman year so they could spend time together. Things started to change for them during the later parts of their freshman year of college after Danielle got heavily involved with a religious group on her campus. According to Liam, she became very manipulative and emotionally abusive. She had these new ideas in her head about who she wanted him to be and wanted to save him. He tried going to church with her and doing the things she wanted him to do, but it eventually led to him becoming confused, upset, and ultimately resentful, which led to them ending things in a crash and burn type way. Fast forward several months after their breakup, Liam met me. We started casually dating at first since he still had trauma and large amounts of trust issues that remained from his relationship with Danielle. After about 5 months, he felt like he was ready for something serious again. 3.5 years later, we were engaged. Another year went by and we were married. Almost 3 years later, we are here today. Throughout all of this time, Liam has not heard from Danielle once. Also during this time, Danielle has met someone new, gotten married as well, and currently has a young child. Flash to a week and a half ago. Liam and I just moved to a new house closer to our hometowns and posted about the move on social media. After seeing the post, Danielle decided to message Liam, congratulating us on the new place and hoping that all is well. Nothing too crazy, but not something he was expecting. They began briefly conversing about house things, moving, renovations, etc. Liam told me she reached out to him and I found this a bit odd, but nothing to worry about. A couple of days later, Liam sat me down to ask me something and for me to not freak out. I, of course, began freaking out. Apparently, Danielle had continued to message him after their brief conversation and eventually sent him a long post letting him know that there were some things she wanted to get out in the open, wanted to deeply apologize for the way she treated him toward the end of the relationship, and wanted to do all of this in person with him. He asked me my opinion on this, and I was definitely concerned as to why, after all this time, this was something she felt the need to do, and also why the need for this to be in person. After discussing this with a friend who had a similar thing happen to her, and afterward the ex left them alone, I ultimately agreed, hoping that the same scenario would play out with us. Boy, was I wrong. Liam and Danielle decided to meet at a coffee shop in a town about halfway between where we live and where she and her husband live. For Liam, it was about an hour's drive. This meeting took place this past Saturday. At first, I asked to come with and just sit in the car while they talked, since I anticipated it being a short but awkward conversation where she could express what she needed to and then he could leave and we could go do something afterward. Liam convinced me I would end up being bored and he would feel bad bad leaving me alone for that time, so it was better for me to just stay back. He didn't think it would last very long, maybe an hour or so, and he would be home before I knew it. I ended up agreeing and he left early in the morning so he could meet her around 10. After letting me know once he got there and that he would keep me posted on when he would be heading back, I waited. After about an hour, I texted asking how it was going and he said it was fine and that he was just listening to what she had to say. Another hour went by and I started feeling a bit concerned as I would have thought they would be done by now. Another hour went by and I was fully irritated. I texted him saying it had been 3 hours and asked when I should expect him back. He let me know they were catching up and he would let me know. Another hour went by, 4 hours in total, and I was mad. What was supposed to be a short apology conversation was turning into a full day thing. Finally, he let me know he was heading home after 4.5 hours of them talking. I needed answers. When he finally got home, I asked what happened. He let me know that Danielle did apologize for the way she treated him during their relationship. After that, they began catching each other up on their lives since it had been nearly 8 years since they last talked. It was a good, casual conversation, and then she started breaking down crying. According to Liam, Danielle is at her wit's end in her marriage and is considering divorcing her husband. She told Liam that her husband hasn't been the man she thought he would be and that they have lost all passion in their marriage. It got harder after she had their baby and she doesn't know what to do since she doesn't really like the idea of starting over and navigating as a single mom. Basically, she was confiding in him about all of the issues in her life, and he sat and listened and talked with her. Liam said she really just needed someone to listen who wasn't involved in their circle. He felt bad for her and just wants to make sure she is okay. He then asked me how I would feel if they continued to be casual acquaintances. I told him I could maybe get to a point where I would be comfortable with that but would need to think about it. He made it seem like that was the end of what they discussed and we continued the rest of our day as normal. At the end of the day, we got in bed and were watching TV when I noticed that he was getting quiet and distant. I asked what was wrong and he started to tear up, saying that there was more he needed to tell me about him and Danielle's conversation. I immediately got worried. In tears, he told me that Danielle expressed to him that she still has feelings for him. Even though it has been years and they have both moved on, she still has parts of her heart set for him, that her husband isn't half the man he is. In some ways, I wasn't shocked to hear that, especially since she wanted to meet with him after all this time. However, what he said next did shock me. He told me that after talking with her, he realized that he also still has some unresolved feelings for her. All this time, he thought she hated him after they broke up when in reality she was just struggling with her religious trauma in college and took things out on him when she shouldn't. Everything was taken out of context. I didn't know what to think. He was so hurt and torn apart after they broke up, and it took me months to build his trust and hope back up in the beginning to allow him to see himself capable of love again. Now, all these years later, he says he still has a part of his heart for her. In many ways, I understand because first love will always hold a spot. But I'm also a bit hurt that my husband, the man I plan to spend the rest of my life with, still feels for his ex. After learning that she still has feelings for him, I told him I wasn't liking the idea of them still talking, that she could eventually start interpreting his kindness to her wrongly and see some sort of potential between them. That really she should be discussing her marital issues with her own husband and not him. He insists that she would never come between us and that Danielle herself even expressed that she respected the idea of marriage wholeheartedly and the last thing she would want to do is harm ours. He wants to be there for her because it seems like she doesn't really have anyone else to talk to about all of this. Last night, he was showing me TikToks on his phone when a text notification from Danielle popped up. I questioned him about it and he shrugged it off as nothing. Today, I asked if she was still texting him and he said she was, but he was trying to slowly cut her off. I expressed again how I don't think it's best for him to be talking to her and how she really should be going to a friend or family member to talk about her issues. I noticed he was still texting her throughout the evening tonight too. Should I be concerned about all of this? I don't want to come across as a wife who controls who her husband can or cannot talk to. I do trust my husband, but I don't really know Danielle. He insists she is true to her word and would never try anything, but how can I know for sure? My best friends think I should tell him to block her. I don't think he will because he feels bad for her, but I don't want her to continue reaching out to him for validation and that eventually leading to her feelings toward him growing more. What do I do? Please help. Update. I want to thank everyone who saw my original post and left a comment or sent me a message. Although they may have been difficult for me to read through, it was something I ultimately needed to do. Anyway, here is the update. Liam, my 27-year-old husband, has been at work all day, so I wasn't able to talk to him much until he got home. I sat him down again and let him know that I needed to talk to him about his communication with Danielle, his 28-year-old ex. I told him that I wasn't happy and that I needed to know if he was still talking to Danielle today. He told me he was, but that he was going to finally end things with her. For those of you who suggested Danielle reached out to him because she wanted him for herself, you were correct. Liam called her today and she straight up asked him how happy he was with me and if, for even a second, there were issues and he wanted out, that they could run away together. She wants to divorce her husband and be with him. I believe this admittance finally broke Liam's rose-colored glasses on the situation and opened him up to seeing what she was really doing, trying to manipulate her way back to him and home-wreck our marriage. He finally told her enough is enough and that he cannot talk to her anymore. He did feel sorry for everything going on with her and her own marriage, but for the sake of his own marriage and his love for me, he needs to stop being in touch with her. He realized that those unresolved feelings he started to have for her after meeting with her this past Saturday were more like feelings of nostalgia for the times they spent together and the times they were happy. The way she spoke about him and his character made him feel good and gave him that ego boost, but after hearing her true intentions, he was able to remember the way she was before and why they broke up in the first place. I told him I wanted him to block her. I wanted no contact at all with her, and he agreed. So he deleted all of their messages, blocked her number, and blocked all of her social media right in front of me. There will be no communication between them going forward. Again, thank you all so much for the help realizing what was happening and what needed to be done. I really appreciate it. IDK said, I have a tiny feeling that this is not going to be the last update. To this comment, G-Drom replied, same, I don't know if I trust Liam not to feel like Danielle's savior and unblock her at some point in the future. Something just feels off about him, but for OP's sake, I hope I am wrong. Then to this user unexpectedly tired said, this isn't over. There was no mention of him apologizing. The man just disregarded his wife because of his ego and his poor helpless ex who was so awful to him. Hopefully, her rose-colored glasses come off soon. They need therapy. If he cheats on OP or they split up and he goes back to the ex, he deserves everything she has coming for him. This final post was made in the AITA subreddit by a user named Duzzy Cow. The post is titled, I didn't back my husband when my stepdaughter started pulling away after he punished her. I'm in my mid-30s and have been married to my husband, who is in his 40s, for about 4 years now. His daughter, Danny, who is 15, lives with us most of the time. I came into her life when she was around 9 and we've always had a good relationship. She's a great kid, smart, funny, a little dramatic sometimes, but generally kind and emotionally aware for her age. He was her safe person through a messy divorce and always made sure she knew she was loved. Their bond has always been more like best friends than the typical strict parent-child relationship. Recently, Danny got in trouble at school over some texts about another girl in her group chat with her friends. Mostly dumb teenage stuff, but a few of the things Danny said about this particular girl were pretty mean. Not slurs or threats or anything awful like that, but a couple of personal jabs since she didn't particularly like her. How it got out. One of the girls in the group chat had a falling out with the others and screenshotted everything. She sent the screenshots to the girl they'd been talking about, who brought them to a teacher. The school ended up calling a meeting with parents, including my husband. The school took it seriously, but handled it well, in my opinion. Danny owned up to what she said and apologized, like a real apology, not a forced one. The girl actually accepted it, which I think says a lot. At home though, things took a turn. My husband reacted very differently than I expected. He didn't yell or lose his temper. Instead, he shut down emotionally. He took away her phone outside of school use, grounded her for 2 weeks, and gave her extra chores with a big lecture about how being that girl, the mean one, sticks with you, how people remember what you do, and how damage can't be undone. But what stood out wasn't the consequences. It was how he did it. It was like a switch flipped. He became cold and formal. Every interaction with her was short, distant, and transactional. No softness, no patience, no sense of connection. It was almost like he couldn't bring himself to look at her the same way. And now, 2 weeks later, that's exactly how she treats him. Polite, obedient, but emotionally closed off. She answers questions, follows rules, says thanks and okay, and nothing else. The affection is gone. Their usual dynamic is gone. With me, she's still her usual self. She talks, she jokes, she decompresses, and runs up to get her hug before I leave in the morning. And my husband has noticed. He asked me if I'd talk to her, help smooth things over, and explain where he was coming from. I told him I think she already gets where he was coming from, but I also think she felt hurt a bit, and she's allowed to feel that way. I said that you can't expect a kid to act like nothing happened when their entire sense of safety in a relationship gets rattled like that. That kind of shift in tone from being your safe person to being so harsh and cold does something to a kid, especially one who's not used to it. He didn't take it well. He said I was minimizing what she did and that if anyone in the house deserved hurt feelings, it wasn't Danny. I pushed back and said I wasn't going to push her to pretend she's not feeling what she's feeling just to make him more comfortable. That's when things escalated. He said I was choosing her over him. I said I wasn't choosing anyone, I just wasn't willing to pretend this didn't change things. He said he was trying to keep her from turning into the kind of person who destroys other people's self-worth and walks away. He told me if I couldn't be on the same page with him as a parent, then maybe I needed space to go figure out where I stood. So I left. I'm at my sister's place right now, and she, of course, sides with him. She says it's good he's not trying to be the cool dad, that it's better to overreact now than regret not doing enough later. I don't disagree entirely. I just think there's a way to teach a kid something serious without making them feel like they're suddenly a stranger to you. So here I am. I didn't back him up when he asked me to. I told him the truth instead. I didn't think that made me the bad guy, but now I'm not so sure. Update. It's been a bit since I last posted and a couple of things have changed, so I figured I'd give an update. I've seen a lot of perspectives that help me think through how everyone, my husband, Danny, even myself, may have gotten tangled up in our own emotions while trying to do what we thought was right. So thank you. After I cooled off and came back home, I told my husband we needed to talk, not just about Danny, but about why he reacted the way he did. I think deep down, I already knew it wasn't just about her behavior at school. He finally opened up and admitted that the whole thing hit a raw nerve for him. When he was Danny's age, he was on the receiving end of some pretty cruel bullying, stuff that stuck with him for years. He said seeing Danny even dabble in that kind of behavior scared him. It wasn't about control, it was about fear. Fear that she'd become someone who could inflict the kind of pain he still carries. That fear made him pull back from her instead of leaning in, and it came out in this cold, distant way that hurt them both. I encouraged him to talk to Danny about it, not to justify what happened, but to explain it and take accountability. And he did. It wasn't some big emotional movie moment, but it was honest. He told her about what he went through, how ashamed he felt that he let his fear come between them, and that her behavior reminded him of people who had hurt him, but that didn't mean she was like them. She listened the whole time, really listened, and she surprised both of us. She didn't get teary or run into his arms or anything, but she did say that she got it, that she's actually been thinking a lot about why what she said mattered, and that the only reason she could reflect on it properly was because she didn't shut down emotionally afterward. She said she felt like she'd lost him for a while, and now that she knows why, she's trying to meet him halfway, but she's still cautious. She's being respectful, warmish, but not back to their old dynamic. Not yet, maybe not ever in the same way, but it's something. Funny enough, the girl Danny said those things about, they've been hanging out. Not besties, but weirdly, this mess kind of forced a level of honesty between them that ended up creating mutual understanding. The girl told Danny she was really hurt at first because she thought Danny meant for her to see those messages, but once they had a real conversation, she realized that wasn't the case. She admitted she was more mad at the girl who leaked the texts, her friend who sent the screenshots around after a falling out. She told Danny she now gets that the stuff said in the chat wasn't meant to be public or malicious, just venting between teens. She even said she said worse things herself in private about people she was frustrated with. It didn't excuse it, but it helped her put it in perspective and she let it go. As for therapy, I brought it up. I told my husband that maybe this would be a good opportunity for all of us to work on our dynamics, maybe family therapy or even just individual support to unpack some of the emotional baggage that clearly still weighs heavy. He's open to family therapy, but absolutely shut down the idea of individual counseling for himself. Danny's kind of on the fence. She says she doesn't hate the idea, but she doesn't feel like she needs it either. Things aren't magically fixed, but we're in a more honest place now. Danny's been handling this whole situation with more maturity than I expected. My husband and I are still figuring out what parenting together means when we come at things from different emotional angles. I still stand by what I said in the original post. Kids don't just bounce back from emotional shifts, and pretending nothing happened doesn't help anyone. But I'm glad we didn't just leave things frozen there. Thanks again to everyone who took the time to give their opinions. Old Butt Problem said, honestly, the two teenagers deserve credit here too. Yes, the original circumstances were awful, but they also communicated and worked their stuff out. It bodes well for their future if they can be like this now. To this, sweet Audrina said, one of my brothers was being bullied by a boy on the way to and from school. My mom tried the school route first, but it went nowhere. So she talked to the other boy's mom and they hashed it out and got the boys together for an apology. It could have gone very wrong, you know how middle school is, but those two ended up being very good friends. They still occasionally chat 30 years later. The teen years are so freaking weird. I could never handle being a teen now. Sugar Can Kiss My Ass said, I am always trepidatious about people who agree to family counseling but flatly refuse individual counseling. I'm sure there are plenty of exceptions, but it certainly immediately reads as, yeah, let's go find a counselor to tell you I'm right about everything. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, Gamersubs. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.